Welcome back to Fantasy Basketball This Week, presented by District of Buckets. I'm Tyler Castle, and I will shortly be joining my co-host, Carl Baltimore, and together we are the lead fantasy basketball analyst at District of Buckets. We also have a special guest for you today, Justice, our Lakers specialist. He's going to be talking all things Lake Show. We got a lot in store for you today. Let's roll the intro tape, get right into it. Once again, welcome back to Fantasy Basketball This Week, presented by District of Buckets. We got a lot of information to talk about today. We're going to also talk to our friend Justice, who's our Lake Show analyst. But before we get all into that, we're going to talk about our headlines. We got James Harden to the Nets. That's going to be the biggest point that we're going to talk about. We got Caris LeVert's got a mass on his kidney, and we're all keeping him in our thoughts. But we're going to talk about how that's going to impact the league and, most importantly, the Pacers. Lastly, we're going to talk about Russell Westbrook being out for 3 weeks and how that impacts the Wizards rotation. Another important thing that I wanted to bring to your attention is I will now be posting my free plays, my free bets on my Instagram account. So if you're into sports betting, sports gambling, especially on basketball, check out my Instagram. My tag's right here, but the link will be in the description if you just want to click on that. Follow me and give me a share if you're trying to, but I'm going to be posting my free plays on my Instagram, so check that out. Carl, we're going to get right into it, and we're going to start off with our friend Justice. So, Justice, why don't you take it away?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Justice McGee, a.k.a. Buck. Biggest Laker fan in the world is my title, Champions of the Free World, and, I'm excited to be on DOB today. Looking forward to being on here in the future sometimes, too.
Yeah, Justice, good to have you. We understand that you're our Laker specialist. What's going on over there in Lake Nation?
Oh, Lakerland. It's been great, man. It's been great to the start of the season. 11-3 record, playing really strong at basketball right now, specifically on the road. Just broke the franchise record right now. 7-0 on the road. It's an incredible feat when you think about all the great Laker teams, especially because this team had a lot of doubt, which is what I want to start off with. This team had a lot of doubt from an NBA champion to losing key defensive players in JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard and Avery Bradley, and of course the floor general, Rajon Rondo. A lot of people doubted us, especially on the defensive end. But they were wrong once again. One of the main things that people doubted the Lakers on was their ability to guard the rim, man. Rim protection, right? Last year we were allowing 60.3% at the rim, which is, pretty fantastic a stat. But this year we actually brought it down to 60.1%. It's not as pretty. It's not the blocks. It's not the highlights. You're not seeing, Dwight Howard sending a shot into the stands anymore. But we've got guys that are stepping in and stepping up and playing really, really hard on offense and defense. And that's just lead me into my two guys this week that, real close to my heart. I'm going to start off with KCP, man. What a guy. What a guy. KC3, man. I'm telling you, this guy, we owe it to him all from the start, being Clutch Sports, bringing it all together. But his play this year has been incredible. Right now he's on pace for a 50-50-90. Like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, 50-50-90. Like, that's unbelievable, He's taking 4 threes a game, hitting 2.1 a game, 55% from the three-point line. And he's just been out of this world. He's only averaging, 23 minutes a game this year, and he's putting in 11. But the key things that KCP has been doing for the Lakers have been going off the stat sheet. It's his speed, man. It's his speed for sure. We lost him for about 4 games there, and it could just be seen on the floor what he's doing. The Lakers are forcing turnovers at a 16.3% of possessions when KCP's on the floor. That's unreal. It's an unreal stat. You know what I mean? And he's just so fast. And it's giving them a lot of opportunities in the break that aren't seen on paper, as I said before. But if he's on the break, we're averaging 1.13 points per transition possession. But then when KCP back in the lineup, now we're averaging 1.18. So we're just going up from there. We're running, and we're doing 27.4 more points per possession in the efforts when KCP is on the floor. that's a game changer. Who's well worth his contract this year. A lot of people thought maybe we should let him walk, but definitely worth the money. And he's worth the money in fantasy as well. His fantasy outlook is pretty solid, man. From a guy that's playing 22 minutes a game, you're not investing a lot into KCP. You know, obviously not being a huge player, but for a plug and play option, I think that KCP is fantastic if you can find him. You know, bring him onto your squad if he's on your waivers. I don't really know how he's looking in the waiver wire right now, but man, great addition to the team. And then my next guy is just AC Fresh, man. AC the GOAT. Obviously, Alex Caruso has a ton of hype in Laker land. The bald eagle, a lot of hate. A lot of people do not like Alex Caruso if they're not Lakers fans, just because they think he's this mediocre guy who only gets the hype because he plays in Los Angeles. But I'm here to tell you that is false. AC is a havoc on defense. I mean, he is just chaotic. He's one of the best on-ball defenders in the NBA right now. Statistically speaking, last year he was the third best on-ball defender from the guard position, which is like unreal when you think about all the great guards we have in the league. And then looking at it even further, breaking it down this year, the things that he's doing that is going to be a huge, huge plus for the Lakers if he can continue is his three-point shooting. Alex Caruso has always been a solid three-point shooter in the NBA, but he's never had to do it on a huge role, and besides last year. And last year he was shooting around 33%, which, you know, isn't awful, a little bit below league average, but, you know, you can't complain from a guy that's doing all the dirty work for you. But this year, man, 58%, second in the NBA for those who qualify, Alex Caruso. Shooting the three, he's only taken 2.7 attempts per game, which is perfect for his minutes, where he's only logging about 17. You know, Lakers players stay in their role. That's what I love about this team. They don't try to force anything. So he's staying in his role, but he's knocking down 1.6 per 2.7 attempts. Incredible from Alex, you know, and he's averaging a steal a game in 17 minutes, which is just like hard to do in the NBA with that consistency. So Alex Caruso spreading the floor. The Lakers look great, 11-3, number one in net rating right now, number 4 offensively, number 1 in defense, best record in the NBA. What more can you say? We are not concerned about the Brooklyn Nets. I just want to put that out there. That's it, guys. That's it for Lakerland today.
Hey, we appreciate it, Justice. I think we kind of agree with you on Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, the dude. His fantasy stock's been going up ever since the season has started. Played 25 minutes last night, and the dude is a defensive hound. His steals and blocks are going to bring up his fantasy value a ton. He's not a guy that solely relies on his points, and that's why we like him. And especially, he's only owned in 11% of the leagues. So if Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's available on yours and you need somebody that can, I believe he's got guard and forward eligibility. So if you need one of those guys to fill those spots, look out for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Look out for Alex Caruso as his role continues to increase in Laker Nation. Carl, you got anything to say about those people?
Just kind of adding on to what you guys already said. Completely agree with KCP's value going up. Came back from that injury pretty strong, and I really just don't see them falling off as long as they stay healthy. So as long as they're healthy, Lakers are rolling.
Yeah, that's true. And like Justice said, if I'm a Lakers fan, I'm not worried about the Nets. There's not enough ball to share over there, where it seems as the Lakers kind of got it figured out who's getting the ball and who's getting it when. And
also to add, the Lakers can defend them. I do not think the Brooklyn Nets can defend the Lakers.
No chance, man. You know,
yeah, that's a really good point. All right, Justice. Well, we really appreciate you coming in and spreading your knowledge for all of our YouTube viewers and SoundCloud listeners. Anything else you got to say to the people before you head out?
Yeah, man. I just want to say, Laker Nation, forever with the champions of the world. Don't snooze on my boy THT. Didn't get to talk about him, but man, what a guy. LeBron's in his 18th year and you're trading for James Harden. Crazy couldn't be me, man. Go Lakers. Go Lakers. I appreciate y'all. DOB, best out, baby. Best out. DOB, more to come, man. More life.
All right. Thank Thanks, Justice.
There y'all.
Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. We really appreciate having Justice on the show. While Contavious Caldwell-Pope and Alex Caruso might not have the most upside right now, their roles are going to continue to increase in the Laker world, and we look forward to meeting back up with Justice and learning more about that team as the season goes on, because they are definitely a dynamic team and somebody you're going to want to keep your eye on.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move into, like I said, regularly scheduled programming. We got some shout-outs to give out this week. First things that come to mind, Joel Embiid's crazy career-high performance that he had like 4 days ago. Dude balled out. Shout out Joel Embiid. Roll the highlight reel.
More options. Joel Embiid, what a night!
Front runner for MVP.
Joel Embiid, front runner for MVP. I mean, he's up there, man. I think if the Sixers start winning a bunch more games, then he's got a chance. But they got to win some games.
Yeah.
Next shout out that comes to mind, Luka Doncic has got his swagger back. Dude has been hooping this last week. Shout out Luka. We told you 2 episodes ago not to worry about him. He's gonna come back for him.
He said it. You said he was too good. We said it. You gotta listen to us.
Yep. I heard a funny quote from one of the analysts watching the Mavericks game saying, Luka started out a little slow. He believes he started out a little slow because of the way he didn't expect the season to start right away. So he got a slow start on his conditioning, and he said he felt slow and sluggish on the court because of obviously not thinking the season would start back up so soon. Because I mean, those guys only got like a month off, right, Carl?
Yeah, only about a month. He showed up looking a little heavier. You said, looking sluggish and slow. So that's definitely a key aspect of his slow start. And, he's picked it up over the last couple of weeks. Love to see it from him. He's too talented for, he was too talented for that to even hold him for a long period of time as he got back into game shape. So looking forward for more growth from Luka for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, that's a guy you're going to want to keep. Don't sell Luka. He's not very injury prone. He high volume shooter. Hopefully that doesn't change now that he just got done yelling at his coaches after the Bucks game the other night. But
Kristaps too. Kristaps Porzingis now coming back is going to be something that just to watch out for, but it should help him have another option on the floor.
Yeah, it takes a few of those eyes off of Luka and allows him to escape a little more often. His 3-point opportunities are going to skyrocket now that Kristaps is back and drawing a little more attention to the paint. He's going to be left open a little more often.
Luka against Middleton. A drive into the paint, ducks around the defense, and the shot falls in. Good bounce off the rim.
Yeah, it sure was. He is so good.
Anybody you want to shout out, Carl?
Yeah, I'd actually start with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, SGA. For OKC. Actually, it's fitting that we had Lakers fan Justice on today, because what I'm going to do now that he's gone is bash the LA Clippers for trading this man away. I said earlier the Clippers, talking to you before the show, saying that the Clippers needed a point guard to make this thing work. And yes, I know they have their superstars. They're playing well. They have PG playing well right now. But, trading away that point guard, SGA is turning into one of the top guards in the league, and we're watching it before our eyes every single night. And he's had 2 games over 65 fantasy points in the last week alone, and he's really just taking leadership of this young team, and just it's impressive to watch. Like averaging 40.3 fantasy points, 21 a game for actual scoring, 5.3 rebounds, 6.2 assists, and about steals and blocks combined, probably about 1.3 a game. He's everything that I would want in a point guard right now. Plays both sides of the floor. He's someone that by this point in the season, if you own him, his value. You're holding on to it because he's showing that he's special.
Yeah, shout out SGA. And I know you got another one that you wanted to shout out. Let's hear it.
Yeah, actually, Kyle Anderson, actually, a.k.a. Slow Mo. He doesn't move very fast at all. For the Grizzlies, just a nice playmaking forward. He's, been around the league for a while. I really like the fact that, like what you really like in fantasy basketball is, people that don't necessarily need a high level of scoring for their production. And despite, not necessarily being like a key, he's key, but like not being a top dog in Memphis. You see him help facilitate the offense's bit. He's a great passer. So he's averaging right now 12.8 points, 7.2 assists, or 7.2 rebounds, and about 4.3 assists per game. And he should be pretty stagnant in his role going forward. And the Grizzlies are clicking right now. They're playing really well as a team. And Kyle Anderson's a big reason why, like how that rotation can get deeper and deeper as the season goes. I like monitoring him. I'm not in a rush to go out and play him, but he's someone that I would like to watch list right now.
Yeah, that Grizzly team they're playing pretty well right now. And that leads me into one of our next points is kind of our injury report. Ja Morant coming back to the team. He's back, and he's back way earlier than he expected. So everybody that had Tyus Jones picked up, get rid of him. I know I did. Ja Morant is back. Tyus Jones' production is going to decrease a ton. Some other significant injury reports that we got to talk about. Russell Westbrook is out for 3 weeks. So you're going to want to move him to the IR or find a spot for him on the bench because he's going to be there a while. Thomas Bryant of the Wizards as well is out for the season. And I know, Carl, you wanted to jump in about something on that.
Yeah, the video last week, I told you guys to watch out for either was it Lopez or Mo Wagner to take over like some of those minutes. Wagner will be playing a lot of minutes, let's say increased minutes in comparison to his current role. But Lopez is the guy that you want if you have to play a Wizard center, and it's more of a situation where it's a guy like you can pick up. Maybe you need a center on a certain day for a matchup. He's solid because he's going to play a decent amount of minutes. He is de facto the best rebounder that is not Russell Westbrook on the team, and Russell Westbrook's gone for a couple of weeks, so there's some value there for him. And I guess if you're just trying to replace Thomas Bryant, I'd say ideally go grab a center on another team, but if you have to pick up a Wizard, you have to go with Robin Lopez.
Yep. Absolutely. I don't want to get too far into this because we're going to save those waiver wire pickups for the end. That's what keeps your guys' attention. So let's move on to some of the people that are underperforming. And Carl, why don't you start us off?
Oh, yes. My number one this week, I actually have Darius Bazley for OKC. Now he's playing well. It's just I initially projected that it would be more of a fantasy basketball increase, like towards his raw stat line. But he's in a pretty solid role at OKC. He's still playing really well. Average about 10 points, 7.6 boards a game. But it's just not the ceiling isn't as high as I thought it was going to be with the amount of minutes that he plays, because he plays about 29 a game. So he's a guy that you want to definitely have rostered if you can get him, but he's not a must start if you want to put him over, I don't know, like certain forwards. Like there's a bunch of other forwards I think you can grab at around his value that could probably perform at or better than him. So I'm not really as high as I once was on him, but still a solid player.
Yeah, Darius Bazley and the Thunder are kind of a weird team right now. A lot of people that have kind of average fantasy value, and it's spread out pretty evenly. So they're kind of a volatile team that you got to keep your eye on if you're going to pick up one of those guys.
Completely agree with that. Because like him and I think it was him and Lou Dort. Lou Dort was another one we mentioned a couple weeks ago, where it's like game to game, they're doing what it takes to win. So that fantasy production is, as you said, you can't really rely too much on it. And then I guess, as we mentioned, injury issues, this kind of goes into my second guy. So I have, I want to talk about Karis LeVert. They found a mass on his kidney. during an MRI after the Brooklyn Nets trade. So during that physical, which also sent an additional second-round pick and cash considerations to Indiana as a result of that physical, leading to him being now out indefinitely. We don't know exactly what's going on with that. They're doing more tests to figure out what it is. Prayers up to him. And in the wake of that, I just wanted to see more out of Justin Holiday. So in the meantime, there's a vacuum of production. Depot's gone. Oladipo's in Houston now. So Justin Holiday has been playing about 29 minutes a game. Going to have to do a little bit of that role, try to step in a little bit with scoring. And I don't know if he really can to a certain level where I'd love it in fantasy basketball. I'm kind of fading him for right now until he shows me more.
Yeah, the major beneficiaries of Caris LeVert being out, which we're all keeping them in our heads, keeping them in our thoughts. But the major beneficiaries of him being out and Oladipo being in Houston, they're Sabonis owners and Brogdon owners are going to benefit the most from that, and their value and their production is probably going to continue to increase as the season goes on because they're dominant as it is, and I don't see their roles decreasing anymore as they continue to prove that they can be the team's scoring providers.
Yeah, completely agree. That 1-2 punch is lethal and getting even more deadly.
Yep. Carl, do you have any more? I have it labeled as WTF guys on my spreadsheet. Do you have any more WTF guys?
This one kind of carries into injury / WTF. It's the Washington Wizards right now. Everybody is getting COVID on the Washington Wizards. Everyone they played before this little outbreak or known outbreak has had to have somebody missing because of COVID, like happened to the Celtics right after we played the Celtics. And there's just the list of teams they played, and they finally realized that it's going around in that locker room, trying to figure out when is this team going to get back on the floor, what's going on, a bunch of games getting canceled. That's kind of my last WTF for the day. Just one.
Yeah. As we all know, this season's been really weird, and as like a fantasy basketball player, it's super unpredictable. You never know what's going to come because you never know who's going to actually play their game. So a lot of the waiver wire decisions I make are based off of who has the most games coming up along with their upside. It's a combination of those two things. And it's become much harder this year because of the COVID protocols that are happening. And it's a good thing that they are happening, but it makes it harder for fantasy basketball owners to predict who's the best guy to pick up off the waiver wires. And that's why we're here. That's why we're here for you. We're here for the people. So knowing that we're here for the people now, let's get right into some of my WTF guys. And I'm riding this train until I die on it. Is the James Harden is a huge question mark, even though he posted a monster stat line on his debut of Brooklyn. Carl, let me finish. James Harden is still a huge question mark because his scoring production will fall because obviously he has to share the ball with two of the other best scorers in the league now. But I shouldn't say but his assist production should be higher. And all of a sudden, according to his debut, James Harden can now play defense, had like 4 steals or something like that in his debut in Brooklyn. So I don't know what you're going to get out of the guy. I'm still saying sell high. I truly believe it. The question is Kyrie going to stay in Brooklyn, and which team would even take Kyrie right now? There's so many questions, and as I've said before, uncertainty breeds lower prices for players. So I don't know. Carl obviously disagrees with me, but I'm selling high on James Harden still.
Okay, so I'm gonna stick to my points because last time I tried to cross in and say something against what you said exactly when it came to the trade or if he was gonna get traded. I was wrong last week. Let all the viewers know that. I said there's no way he was gonna get traded. Tyler got it right. But like just to like look at the system that they're in right now. He is back at home, except this time with the right pieces around him potentially. And Kyrie Irving has stated that he is excited to come back and play with James Harden. Now we'll see how that plays out. We'll figure that out. But Mike D'Antoni, who coached Steve Nash will have Harden basically doing similar things to what he was doing, let's say back in, honestly last year, most of his later years in Houston. So he's back at home essentially, never really left, in the same system with better talent. Like, even if his scoring's not really what it is, he's shown us that he's willing to play. And if he's finally playing defense, it's always been mental. Upside gets higher. So that's what it is for me.
Fair enough. You got both sides of the spectrum here. So take your pick. I mean, I was right about the Harden trade, but if you want to take Carl's word for it now, whatever, that's fine. It's your fantasy team, not mine.
Yeah.
All right, my next what the fudge guy is Jamal Murray. He shined in the bubble, was pretty much averaging a triple-double in the bubble, triple-double bubble, Jamal Murray. But now he is not nearly performing at that rate. My prediction is that he continues to increase as a scoring provider for the Denver Nuggets. I mean, he's alongside the number one fantasy player, Nikola Jokic. And I don't understand how Jamal Murray's performances couldn't get better, knowing that they have the best assisting center in the league, one of the best scoring centers in the league. I predict Jamal Murray is going to get an uptick in fantasy production. Carl, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree it's going to uptick. I don't think it's going to go too much higher, but I think it's going to, rebound a little bit. The thing that's weird is just seeing how it's just, his game in the bubble just seems vastly different. I don't know. Like, it just seemed like he was playing with even more of an edge. I don't really know what's going on with him, but he's another talented guy that I think can get out of this slump.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it'll just happen with time. Obviously the most important time is as we near playoffs, when the fantasy owners start entering the playoffs, is when he's going to start getting more aggressive like he was in the bubble, trying to win these games.
Mm-hmm.
My next guy that I want to talk about is Jimmy Butler. So Jimmy Butler and the Heat found themselves sitting out a couple of games because of COVID. And right before that happened, he had two phenomenal games, 68 fantasy points and 48 fantasy points in ESPN standard scoring. He has sat since. I've said it before, Jimmy Butler is not a fantasy basketball player. He's there to win basketball games in real life, and he'll do whatever it takes to make sure that happens. And a lot of the times it means allowing his other role players to play their game. And he does a great job at it. I'm not hating on Jimmy Butler. He's just not a guy that I want on my fantasy team, especially for like the value he tends to hold in fantasy basketball. There's a lot of guys you could get for Jimmy Butler that would produce more consistent value for your fantasy team. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree, and I'll say name value wise, if you own him, deal him. There's always someone in every fantasy league that will jump at his name. Just, someone's gonna get excited just by seeing Jimmy Butler. Maybe you have an old Bulls fan in your league. They'll go for him. Someone will go for him just because of his name. So try to get rid of him, but make sure you make the deal with someone who you feel like might kind of overvalue him just because of the history of Jimmy Butler.
Yep. All right, and then my last WTF guy is a guy that has had plenty of appearances on our show, Andre Drummond. He continues to kill teams on the boards. His last game against the Knicks, he had 23 rebounds and 33 points. I don't know how he's maintaining it thus far, but I don't see it continuing, especially with the addition of Jared Allen. Eventually, Andre Drummond's going to see a downtick in player usage, and then his efficiency will fall because he's not taking as many shots. He's not grabbing the ball off the boards as often. I'm still selling high on Andre Drummond, but I'm not giving him away for just anything because right now it looks like he's one of the best centers in the league.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Also, I'd like to add that you don't want to get rid of him or even consider it just yet because his name's going to be one of the biggest talked around as we get closest to the trade deadline. Because it doesn't seem like the Cavs, with their current move that they just made, expect him to be there for a long time, and he's going to be wanted by a lot of teams looking to compete. Now we've seen the league shake up. So he's going to have maybe like a downtick in his fantasy value while his time in Cleveland is on its way up. But I highly expect him to be traded by the end of this by the trade deadline. I just don't see them keeping all these guys at once, and I don't know who they're going to deal. And he's the name that at this point is the most appealing to other teams.
Yeah, I think you're right. Right now, it looks like the Cavs starting lineup could be 2 power forwards and 3 centers the way they're starting to roster their team. It's kind of weird, and I don't expect that team to be the same by the trade deadline, like you had said. That's it for my WTF, guys. We got to move into everybody's favorite portion of the show. Fringe guys, waiver wire pickups. Carl, who you got?
So I've got one guy this week, and I've been a big fan of this rookie class. So I'd like to give a big shout out to Patrick Williams on the Bulls. Patrick Williams is rostered in 18.9% of leagues right now, and I really like him because of his upside. And so the Bulls have already decided that this kid means a lot to their team. So offensively, he's averaging around 10 points a game, 3.8 boards, about an assist, and combined steals and blocks 1.7. So it's just almost a block and a steal per game, which is pretty nice. He's gonna grow as he gets more minutes and they get more comfortable with him. But what I love is that they are willing to already place him on the toughest defensive assignment that they have that game. And we've already seen him on Giannis, on LeBron, on Kawhi. Generally, he's done a really good job. A lot of those guys are just, they're too good to stop. And actually held his own pretty well against LeBron. Whatever holding your own is against LeBron, but he definitely did that pretty well. And there's a lot of growth on the horizon for him. And you see the way the Bulls are developing. Like, they have a direction now. And Patrick Williams is a big plan for them. And I just wanted to shout it out because everyone was going crazy when he got picked in the draft really high. Then I started looking at him and I was like, he does a lot of small things that, that teams need. He goes, he plays defense, he rebounds, and he shoots the ball pretty well for a rookie. But that's my guy. That's my fringe guy. Only one this week. It's Patrick Williams. Yeah, only one this week, and it's Patrick Williams. That's my guy.
Man, throwing all your eggs in one basket. I like it. Patrick Williams had a brief stint on my team off the waivers. I don't know if he's necessarily worthy of a full-time spot. It's one of those guys who you might want to throw in rotation, depending on what their schedule looks like. Like I said, that has a lot to do with who you're picking up off the waivers. So make sure you're checking out who's playing the most games that week before you just go pick up any guy that looks like he's playing well. But yeah, Patrick Williams has a lot of upside, and the dude does a lot of things right, like you said. It's just a matter of getting that player usage that other fantasy players with higher value are getting.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's his fringe guy. My fringe guys, I've got 3 for you. Starting off with DeAndre Jordan. DeAndre Jordan is now the only true center on the Brooklyn Nets after the Jared Allen move to Cleveland. So I picked DeAndre Jordan up immediately after I heard this news. He should see a tremendous uptick in minutes. And somebody's got to grab those boards from all the shooters. I mean, James Harden, Kyrie, and KD are going to be chucking up shots. KD is obviously going to grab some boards, but DeAndre Jordan is going to play a huge role on this Nets team, and I really like him. If they don't pick up another center, DeAndre Jordan could end up having a full-time spot on my team, and he might not ever see the waivers again. So DeAndre Jordan, look for him. Let's see how many leagues he's owned in. It's not a lot. He is owned in 40% of leagues. So if he's available, which he probably is, go ahead and pick up DeAndre Jordan. They're also playing 4 games this week with minimal COVID protocol, with people being withdrawn from the games. So they should play all 4 of their games despite any changes in their COVID stats. My next guy on the waiver wire is Enes and Aeneas. Not Anus. Probably not Anus. Enes Kanter. Okay, Enes Kanter, however you want to say it. While he might be on the run from his hometown Assassins, he's going to be hooping now that Nurkic is out with a broken wrist. So Enes Kanter is going to be the biggest beneficiary out in Portland of Nurkic being hurt. I project his fantasy value to go up a lot, and he also has 4 games coming up this week, so a lot of room for big fantasy value in Enes Kanter. Lastly is a guy that kind of bounces in and out of the waivers in our league, and it's OG Anunoby. And STL, he's from, I think he's actually, I don't know where he's from, but he played high school basketball in St. Louis at Jefferson City. Okay. And he's been bouncing around our waivers for a while, going from team to team, being kind of a rotational guy. But he has 4 upcoming games, and his stats keep getting better and better every week, it seems. He is owned in 60% of leagues, so one of the higher owned guys that we're going to talk about on French Guys. But it's a guy that doesn't need points to keep his fantasy value high. He's a defensive superstar. He's so good. Right now on the season, he's averaging 2.7 blocks and steals combined per game. In the last 7 days, it's up to 3.3 stocks per game. So this guy is a guy, if you are in a roto league or a category league where you need steals and blocks, look for OG Anunoby. If you're in a normal standard ESPN fantasy league, it's still a guy that you should be keeping an eye out for. Also plays 4 games this week. Huge upside. If he is available, go pick up OG Anunoby. Carl, anything to say about my guys?
The French guys, Enes Kanter, it's gonna be interesting. I don't know. He's had a couple of down years. Hopefully, I would just like to see him try to protect the paint a little better. But teams, it's just the way teams like to get him to switch a lot on guards. It's just defensively, I don't know if his upside's really there, but there's so much opportunity he has to grab some.
Yep, his pick and roll game is one of the weakest in the league, but his first starting debut for Portland, he played 29 minutes, 12 points, 15 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, and 5 blocks against Atlanta. I wish I would have had him for that game. And like I said, he's got 4 games coming up, and if he can continue to protect the paint like he did against Atlanta, he has huge upside. And until Nurkic comes back, he's going to be the starter for the Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah.
All right. Lastly, we got to get through the injury report. We've already talked about it a little bit, but we got to. Yeah. There's
anything we haven't mentioned?
What'd you say?
Anything big that we haven't mentioned?
Yeah, we got Westbrook out for 3 weeks. We got Kristaps Porzingis is back. The Celtics core has returned, minus Jason Tatum, but he should be returning later in this week. Thomas Bryant is out for the season. Cat is out.
With COVID, yeah.
Who else is
out? Yeah, Cat with COVID. I think it's really. Oh, Lauri Markkanen is back.
Lauri Markkanen
is back, so I'm monitoring him to see how he plays. Got him on my squad, so hopefully he turns up.
Evan Fournier is still out. Goran Dragic is out with COVID protocol. Josh Richardson is out. Kevin Love is out with some calf strain issues. We're getting to that point of the season where a lot of people are out. Bogdan Bogdanovic is out. Yes, it happened actually last week, right after we had recorded the episode. It happened on that Sunday night, and Bogdanovic is going to be out for several weeks with a bone bruise. So, not a guy that's owned in a lot of leagues, but just one of those guys that gets thrown around in the waivers, and he's out for a little while. So, don't be picking him up. Lastly, we got to do our closing statements. You got anything to say to the people, Carl?
Let's see. To the people, regular season P. Paul George currently is a part of the 50-50-90 club, which doesn't necessarily exist for a full season outside of Steve Kerr. Fun fact, didn't have the shots to technically make that a real club. But Paul George is balling out. I'd like to shout out Mason Jones, Arkansas Razorback, who played was undrafted, finally played his first game. Another shout out, let's see. Honestly, I'd like to shout out mostly just those guys. Trying to see if there's anyone else I really want to throw out there. That's about it. I was going to shout out my opponent, but I don't want to, it's Sunday night. I don't want to ruin anything in fantasy, even though I have a sizable lead. So I'm going to let you go and do your shout outs.
Yeah, I mean, we forgot to talk about our fantasy team. So last week I had a loss, and it kind of hurt a little bit. This week I bounced back and brought myself to the forefront of the total points scored in our league, which makes me feel good. It kind of gives me credibility to you guys. You should listen to me. I know what I'm talking about over here. Carl, how's your team doing?
I'm up almost 300 points on my opponent, looking to get back to 500. Bouncing back after my first 2 weeks, mostly because of the waivers. So listen what I have to say when I say go pick somebody up, because I've been balling out. Took myself from, the bottom of the league. Now we're slowly working our way up. But yeah, feels good to get back to 500.
Good. And you're on pace to have the highest point total this week. So shout out to us.
Yeah.
Shout out to us. For closing statements wise, thank you to the 98 people that watched our video last week. We almost hit triple digits. Hopefully that'll happen. Like, somebody will go back after this video and watch it, and we'll get to 100 views. That'd be really cool. Shout out to our 28 subscribers. You guys are the lifeblood of fantasy basketball this week. Shout out to everybody that leaves a comment, because that is huge. Shout out to everybody that stays until the end of the video. You guys are the reason that we continue to grow. Along with my little clickbait titles, we're trying to stay search engine optimized over here. We really appreciate you guys that watch. You have no idea how much it helps the algorithm when you stay all the way through to these closing statements, when you leave comments, when you like the video. That helps us out so much, and it helps us continue to grow. And once again, helps us add more bells and whistles, put a little more time into this every week. So that way we got a full-on show going on. Like, we brought in Justice today. Shout out to Justice for coming on the show. And that's a product of you guys being attentive to what we're putting out there. The team's just going to continue to grow, and we're going to continue to get better. So shout out to you guys from my heart to yours. Love you. I don't know what else we got. Sponsor.
I want to do my last little shout out just to everyone who's just been with District Buckets at the beginning. Finally had some pretty solid interactions. I mean, it's been a long process. Finally making some moves. Love to see it, and just thank everyone for the support. Keep reading the blogs whenever I throw them on your timeline. I'm going to keep being annoying with all that, and eventually I'll get to a point where I don't have to be annoying, because I won't have to share my own stuff. So that's
Yep.
it.
Yep. You guys mean the world to us. You guys continue to help us grow. We look forward to being here for the long haul. Last things last, check out our socials in the description down below. They're also right below our pictures right here. So if you don't follow us there yet, go ahead and do so. We're always putting out content. We really appreciate you guys. And that has been the 4th episode of Fantasy Basketball this week. Peace, guys.